how do we process this through a biblical lens? Because the question, I think many people well, two questions. First of all, is this the rider on the pale horse? And secondly, are some of the solutions being proposed by medical experts and the big tech companies, are they leading to the mark of the beast?
One of the big questions that we've been getting at Skywatch TV has to do with, like, Bill Gates, talking about a vaccine, and will the vaccine become mandatory? Or will it be de facto mandatory because without his digital certificate that he's pushing, you wouldn't be able to go out into the public anyway. You'd essentially continue to be quarantined. And so, I was doing programs recently that wound up having me on the front page of Newsweek's online magazine, and other, like, right-wing watch. Speaking of fake news outlets.
Yeah.
But saying that Tom Horn believes that coronavirus could be the mark of the beast. Well, if you listen to anything that I had said, I never said that.
Right.
I did ask the question, could something like this, could a pandemic in the future be the methodology by which the Antichrist introduces the mark of the beast? And could it be, Sharon, like a smart vaccine, something like that, that's not only would you be inoculated from the disease, but perhaps might even tinker with your genetic makeup, begin modifying you from the inside out? You've written about some of that in the past.
Yeah, let me brag on her a bit. She was way early on this, almost 20 years ago, with her novel, The Armageddon Strain, in proposing a technology that might do something just like that. The BioStrain chip, which is a plot device.
The BioStrain chip did that very thing.
Yeah, which she allowed me to use as a plot device in my first novel.
Well, not only did the BioStrain chip alter the human's DNA, it was required by the government if you wanted to buy or sell, but it also was something that they could use as a backdoor, frankly, to kill you if they chose to.
Right.
So it had a really horrific possibility to it. I think that what we're seeing now, it's not just Gates who's calling for this idea of a certificate. In Europe, there are calls for, in Germany especially, there are calls for an immunity passport. Before you can travel, you have to prove that you're a safe traveler. That means that you're not going to pass the disease to someone else.
Right. And so what this looks like is not that anybody is saying that coronavirus is the mark of the beast, but what we are saying is look at what is happening, how our civil liberties are being eroded. In fact, it was Attorney General Barr following, this call for a certificate that said we have to be really careful here with a slippery slope. Because remember, following 9/11, they introduced the Patriot Act, and they said it's only going to be for 5 years, and then it's going to go away, and all of your civil liberties are going to be reinstated, and we're going to stop tracking you. Well, they never did. And in fact, the same technology is what allowed the FBI and others to start the whole Russiagate thing against Donald Trump. So they just continued to use it. Once the cat is out of the bag, it's really hard to recoup what at one time was a cherished civil liberty that we consider to be, within the Constitution.
Well, speaking of tracking individuals, both Apple and Google have said that they're going to build into the native part of their operating system in the next generation of these devices, that they would automatically track you using your GPS, and you would be able to know this person's had the disease or not had the disease, and they would also look at all the people around you. So it was a way of enforcing social distancing, but also tracking individuals who maybe don't have an immunity certificate. The problem is it defaults to that. You have to opt out. Well, when asked about that in a recent press conference, President Trump said, "I'm aware of that, and I'm a little bit bothered by that." Because that sounds to me like it's infringing upon people's rights.
Right. And I was a little bit confused, not to get off on the whole Apple-Google thing, but how it would even work. Because the only way that they'd be able to know, like two people get within close proximity of each other and your app alert goes off on your phone that you're closing in on somebody that's got or had coronavirus, is if your health information is somehow being shared through databases regarding you. So
and tied to the specific ID on your mobile device.
Exactly.
Each mobile device has a unique electronic signature that allows you to be tracked. Every mobile device anymore has GPS chips in them, so they can. Google has already made available online analyses and visual maps showing how movements how their mobile devices are moving in certain areas. Now, it's supposed to be anonymous, no user information connected to we're just looking at how these phones are moving and so forth. Yeah, right, until it's not anymore. Governments never give back power once they take it on
No, they never
themselves.
do.
As of now, they're saying this would be voluntary. You'd have to willingly participate, but if they build it right into the operating system, the truth is most people using mobile phones and tablets don't know enough about the internal guts, the preferences, especially if they bury it deep in the preferences where you've got to go 4 or 5 levels deep into the preferences to opt out of that sort of tracking system. But as you said, Tom, we're living in a time now where people are afraid enough where we can see, maybe we're not there yet, but we can see how something like this in the future would lead people to say, yes, we want to be tracked because I want to know if I'm getting on the bus with somebody who's been exposed to this terrible, terrible disease.
Look how quick.
There are an incredible number of coronavirus monitoring bracelets flooding into the market right here in the US. And the companies behind them say that they're here for just one purpose, in order to track you and who you've been in contact with. They say it's for public safety, but you want the truth? The truth is, those companies have already created these bracelets and they use them right now. They use them, they say, on currently incarcerated people and criminally convicted people. Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. I've been telling you for the last few weeks about the issue of contact tracing, how it is on its way. The HR 6666, the House bill that was originally designed to create a contact tracing program across the country, is maybe one of the most shocking examples of this, but it's certainly not the only one. In fact, there are tech firms right now that are working vigorously in order to get contracts to create contact tracing monitoring bracelets that would essentially be able to track you and everyone you come in contact with. In fact, in some cases, those bracelets would determine whether or not you're standing at a safe distance from other people. And if you're not, would actually start to beep to alert everyone around you that you are, in fact, a rule breaker. Well, meanwhile, we see not only it happening in the United States, but an incredible new move in Italy right now, where 60,000 people are going to be hired for the purpose of being civic volunteers, but their actual job will be to snitch on people who don't follow coronavirus social distancing rules, including things like wearing masks. More on that in a second. But first, let's talk about this bracelet monitoring issue, because there are a series of companies right now that are trying to get contracts, government contracts, and also contracts with large corporations in order to monitor employees, where they are, who they come in contact with, how long they're in contact, exactly what everyone's doing at all times. According to The Intercept, take Arista Flow, a Maryland-based outfit that helps corporations track their assets, breathing or not. In an April 21st press release, the company announced it would begin selling Bluetooth and Wi-Fi trackers to be worn on an employee's wrist like a Fitbit or around the neck like a cowbell. When people come within 6 feet of each other for a period of time, the company wrote in a press release, the device makes an audible chirp and a record of the contact is made in the Arista Flow software system.
The zone today is 3 meters, they get a pre-alert, a small vibration. Within 2 meters, they get the full vibration, and it only stops when they go back to their safe zone.
And if it works and if it has added value, we can even go to the legislators, say, please adapt the laws to make it happen, because there's not one law on the planet ever written to drive innovation. It's more regulation of innovation. But if we say it works, then they're more willing to listen than to a startup. That's basically why we are doing this. You have a helmet and you have safety shoes and you have a swimming vest, all these kind of things. And now we're adding a wearable on top of that to make sure that people are safe. And if something goes wrong, that it is being detected as soon as
Tracking goes
possible.
far beyond audible chirps. Arista's platform allows employers to continuously upload a record of close encounters to a corporate cloud, providing an up-to-date list of presumed social distancing violators that would double as a detailed record of workplace social interactions. Of course, this is not the only company doing this. In fact, there are waves of companies doing the exact same thing, including an Israeli surveillance company known as Supercom. And Supercom actually already has the technology in existence. They didn't create it in response to the coronavirus. In fact, the company already has these monitoring bracelets in place. They use them, they say, on currently incarcerated people and criminally convicted people. The security company has customers in 20 countries, including the US, and claims decades of experience with what it calls, in a press release, secured boundaries projects like border crossings and home confinement. It's the house arrest expertise that the company is now marketing as Pure Care, described on the Supercom website as a state-of-the-art solution for quarantine and isolation monitoring to aid government efforts in containing and limiting the reach of infectious diseases. Are you kidding me? So a company that essentially right now specializes in putting monitoring bracelets on people who are incarcerated or people who are criminally convicted now says that it has a packaged product called Pure Care that is designed for quarantining people and keeping them socially isolated. We would know that term as house arrest. That's what they're talking about here. And this is a company that is essentially trying to get contracts from the government. So remember when I talked about HR 6666, I warned that the issue here is it's not about coronavirus and it is about being able to isolate people in their homes. Well, this company, Supercom, is trying to do exactly that. They're selling contracts to the government to say, we can monitor people, we can put them in their homes, we can keep them isolated, and we can monitor where they are, what they're doing, and who they come in contact with. Supercom America's president, Orden Trebelsky, declined to tell The Intercept where the company's ankle bracelets are currently being used for quarantine enforcement, but it named Central America as the location of one pilot deployment and referenced a second pilot program in some other unspecified region. And then you have another company called Redpoint, which says it specializes in being able to tag employees of a company and monitor their whereabouts. Quote, Redpoint offers companies the ability to tag their equipment and employees using ultra-wideband radio signals, a wireless positioning technology only recently added to the most advanced iPhones. Redpoint boasted in the announcement of its ability to use these tags to track the location of people and equipment with extremely high accuracy, even in complex industrial environments. Lastly, I want to tell you about what's going on in Italy, because I believe this could absolutely come here and very soon. I think it's part of what that HR 6666 was all about. But over in Italy, there's this incredible story about civic volunteers who are being hired now to actually snitch on each other in order to prevent people from violating coronavirus rules. In fact, the Italian government says it's going to hire 60,000 civic volunteers to go around and to monitor people's actions. What are they doing? Are they wearing masks? Are they staying apart from each other? Are they breaking any of these so-called guidelines that have been created to supposedly protect us all? Again, if we're going to go by this idea that we're being protected by these guidelines, then the guidelines must be based in science. And currently, as of right now, they are not. It is not a scientific approach. It is not based upon facts. It is based upon theories that are created. And then the answer from government to making sure that you're safe and protected is to monitor your movements, your interactions, who you're talking to, how long you're spending with that person, where you've been, and where you're headed next. And that is not a system that we can stand by and allow to take root. It's also vitally important that we understand that what's happening right now in this country is an effort to combine, once again, tech companies and corporations with the power of government. Corporations that stand to make billions of dollars by forcing these products onto the public, governments that want to be able to track and monitor, and governments making corporations rich by allowing them to create a product that is forced on the population. It's happened so many times in the past, and we must stand up against it this time without question.
The way we do it at Rombit with our bracelet is by ensuring that only a certified person or a trusted person can look at that data. So we're not spreading it over the internet, we're not spreading it through a cloud service, we're keeping it local, and we're keeping it only accessible through a person which can be trusted with that data.
Can we talk about compliance? Because when it comes to your technology, the bracelets that are rolled out across industrial sites, it requires employees to wear those devices. When it comes to smartphones, are likely to be the device where we see much of the contact tracing rolled out. It does require an opt-in type of scenario. How concerned are you that people will just simply not agree to this technology, whether it's in the workplace or whether it's around the house and leisure facilities?
Yeah, so first and foremost, we created this technology not just the last 3 weeks. We've been working on this technology for about 1.5 years, and we've created it to increase safety and security for workers, typically in port environments, in logistical chains, and so on. Keeping that in mind, people will want to use our technology because they feel much safer in situations like man down, situations like dangerous situations between people and vehicles in the same environments, and so on. So keeping that in mind, we believe that using a bracelet, ensuring first and foremost social distancing to get people back to work, and then using that same bracelet with updated features and functionality to keep them safe over time is something we see as very positive. And in all the research we've done so far, we see a big willingness to actually use this technology versus, for example, smartphones, which are in most cases in industrial sites not allowed in the first place.
Allow me to recap for members what the Trace Together app does. This is basically a contact tracing app which uses your phone's Bluetooth function to detect other phones nearby. It keeps a record of other Trace Together users whom you happen to be in close contact with. It encrypts and stores this data on your own handphone. And if in the unlikely event you turn out to be positive or diagnosed with COVID-19, this data is then uploaded to MOH, and the contact tracing teams in MOH use this to quickly identify, isolate patients, quarantine people who may be at risk of having been infected by you and of transmitting the disease onwards. Today, Trace Together has been downloaded on a voluntary basis by 1.5 million users. The number of downloads, particularly given that it is voluntary, is encouraging. Unfortunately, the app does not appear to work as well on iOS or Apple devices, as the iOS operating system actually suspends Bluetooth scanning when the app is running in the background. I apologize for getting a bit technical here. We've had repeated discussions at both the technical and policy level with Apple, but we have not yet been able to find a satisfactory solution. Because Trace Together does not work equally well across all smartphones, we have decided, therefore, at this point in time, not to mandate the compulsory use of Trace Together. Instead, we are developing and will soon roll out a portable wearable device that will achieve the same objectives as Trace Together, but will not depend on possession of a smartphone. If this portable device works, we may then distribute it to everyone in Singapore. And I believe this will be more inclusive, and it will ensure that all of us will be